Today we're talking about the environment and you. Due to concerns about our planet, many people are transitioning in the way that they waste and dispose of items. Some people have incorporated many changes into their daily lives. Recently at Fort White Alive, we approached Winnipeggers and visitors to hear their concerns regarding the environment and what they are doing to make a difference. But first, I would like to welcome Bethany Damon, Living Green, Living Well Coordinator at Green Action Center, and Jackie Avent, Director of Sustainability at Fort White Alive. So welcome to Transitions. Maybe could you start with telling us a little bit about the place where you work?
Yeah, I work at Green Action Center. We're an environmental charity located in Winnipeg, and our goal is to help Manitobans live green and live well. So we focus on our two major areas are sustainable transportation and then also waste reduction, looking at how you can reduce waste in the first place, trying to ensure it's not coming into your home, and then if it does come into your home, diverting it from the landfill. And then the sustainable transportation side of things, we look at how to get kids to school in an active and safe way, how to get to school in a sustainable way, and trying to reduce our environmental footprint.
Nice. And how about yourself?
I work at Fort White Alive, Director of Sustainability there. And people think of Fort White Alive as a nature preserve or as a place where kids come for environmental education. And we are that place, but we're so much more. It's open 364 days a year. We have something for everybody. So whether you are a senior or a millennial interested in birding, you can come to Birding and Breakfast in the mornings in the spring and the fall, and bird watch. You can paddle or even sail in the summertime. Go for a nice walk with your family, enjoy lunch or dinner at the Buffalo Stone Cafe run by Diversity Foods, pick up some Christmas gifts or other gifts at our nature shop. Visit Winnipeg's own urban farm and only urban farm at Fort White Farms. We have a herd of about 35 bison, and this time of year we have many calves that are being born, so it's a pretty amazing thing to see, to get out there. And we want to connect people with the environment and encourage active and healthy living and demonstrate sustainability in action.
That's wonderful. I really enjoyed being there, and just recently with co-producer of this show, and it's Neil Abercrombie. And now we're just going to cut to that film so that our viewers can see what some of the Winnipeggers and visitors had to say. I'm interested in knowing what kind of changes you have made in your lives to help the environment.
Well, so we're traveling right now. We're actually from Toronto and we're here on a visit, and we noticed a lot of times when we're traveling it's really easy to make a lot of waste because you're using a lot of single-use items. So something we've been trying really hard to do is always bring our reusable water bottle with us, reusable sandwich bags, things like that. I don't know, yeah, what kind of stuff do we do to reduce waste while we travel?
Something we're pretty concerned about is how we grocery shop and what we're buying in the packaging for those sorts of things. So we tend to avoid plastic packaging where we can and buying things in cardboard boxes or what have you. And it's hard to tell what kind of difference it makes, but it feels like we're making a difference. At least buying things without so much plastic packaging.
I use cloth bags whenever I can, and whenever I remember to take them to the store, which is most of the time. And other types of plastics I try to move away from as much as I can.
I think the single-use plastic is what I really like, straws and takeout food containers and things like that. Saran wrap, plastic bags, all those. That's I think where we're really starting to change.
Could you tell us what you understand by the topic of zero waste?
Thank you for the invitation to talk about it. I think if you are preparing food just for the consumption and you're consuming all of it, then there is literally no waste. And I think it's a best way to preserve and not waste food, because when I hear a lot of people talking about they don't have food to eat, and I see the garbage going full every day, every Wednesday out, and it's full of food in that. Like, I live with students, and I have seen that students sometimes cook a lot of food, and they want to store it and eat it over time, but it's also boring to eat the same food. So cooking small dishes and eating what you like and preserving what you like is the best way to not have any kind of waste
Oh, okay.
in food
Well,
waste.
That's great. And what about packaging? Because like this morning, I was thinking. Actually, Neil, who is one of our volunteers and co-producer of this segment on the environment and you, it got me to thinking that I have to get back to gardening so that my food can go from the garden to my plate. What do you think about the packaging situation right now?
If we are using packaging that is environmental friendly, such as papers, and something that can be biodegradable right away, like edible coating on fruits. So it's one of the best way to pack. However, we are in the era where we have like so much plastic in our life, so it's hard to get it out. Like, how you can start little by little, but if you say that, okay, stop using it, that's gonna make a chaos. It has to start somewhere, and maybe one day we would be at a place where we won't be using any plastic or something that is harmful for the environment and everybody, because it's a sustainable living involves human nature and everything, animal, everything that's in it, socioeconomic aspects. So we have to consider everything when we are using it. It's not easy, but it's doable.
Something I'm interested in knowing, as young people, are you looking a little bit at gardening in a different way? Maybe possibly starting your own garden to reduce how much packaging is coming into your house?
Yeah, we've actually been trying to do a little bit of urban gardening. We live in an apartment building, so we have very limited space, but we do have an outdoor balcony, which gets a lot of really good sunlight. And so we've kind of been researching up on how to grow some of our own vegetables. Tomatoes we've been looking into, and we grew green onions recently as well. Yeah, so it's definitely something we're interested in.
Evan's going to share with us some thoughts on recycling.
Like pop bottles, you know how they come like in the rings, like the 6-packs? Because a lot of turtles are getting like those caught in them, and then they're getting like a hourglass shape. They're called hourglass turtles, and it's a deformation, and it's really bad for the turtles. And also straws, it gets like stuck up in their noses, and they can't breathe. And then when they try to go for food, it hurts them because they keep hitting the ground, and they eventually die.
Welcome back to Transitions. I hope you enjoyed watching the video. So we have a number of items here that we'd like to home. And who would like to start to talk about some of the things you brought in?
Yeah, well, I can talk about some of the things that we have from Fort White. Our nature shop sells a variety of items that people can come and look at and explore, and as they consider their home and their life to be waste-free. For example, a lot of people are concerned about the use of saran wrap in the kitchen or Ziploc bags. So we have some products that are made out of fabric and coated with beeswax. They're a food wrap that you can use in place of styrofoam. So put it over a bowl. You can use it to cover, a piece of apple or cheese if you have any leftovers. So you can use that, reuse it in your own kitchen, or pack it in your reusable lunch bag, like this one, for example. We also have something like reusable paper towels. So these are made out of cloth. This is made by a Canadian company in Ontario. You can take them apart. They're just connected by some little snaps. And those, then you can just throw them in your washing machine and reuse them. You can even go on your paper towel dispenser with a little round center that's in here. And then other things like a reusable juice box, some different types of straws. There's glass straws, metal straws, silicone straws, bamboo cutlery, reusable coffee filters. So basically everything that you would maybe use on a daily basis and dispose of has an alternative that can be reused. At Buffalo Stone Cafe, which is operated by Diversity Foods, which is a social enterprise, it has not only an environmental and social purpose, but also one to create great food for our visitors at Fort White. But we recently moved to compostable containers. So these, if you happen to take food to go, which you don't have to, you can eat in the dining area or out on the patio on reusable plates with actual cutlery. But if you happen to take something to go, what you take with you can then be put in our compost bins. And we work with Green Action Center's social enterprise, Compost Winnipeg, to pick up compost on site and take it to a composting facility. So all of our compost that's food waste related to people visiting Fort White or staff that bring their lunches and have a banana peel or something that's biodegradable, volunteers that bring their stuff, school programs. We encourage composting by encouraging the Trash Can Jam, which is a program activity that looks at lunch, the kids' lunch kits and what they're bringing, and helps them separate and understand what's recyclable, what's compostable, what's garbage, and then how can they reduce that. We take care of all of that in our operations.
Lovely. That's really great.
Yeah, I was at Fort White recently and I was super impressed seeing the 3-bin system, moving just away from just the 2-bin system to the 3-bin system, having compost and recycling and garbage, and ensuring that there was proper signage on each one of them so that you don't end up with contamination with any of those streams. Because with contamination, if you end up with too much of it in any one of those streams, the entire load could end up going to the landfill, which is absolutely what we don't want.
So is there a little area that you can rinse things off before you throw them in the recycling bin there?
No, we just, there's recycling bins and garbage bins all everywhere on site, and we have composting bins in our interpretive center and in our Alloy Reception Center by the cafe. So at the cafe, you can scrape your plate into the compost, because even paper towels and the little containers that you might take your ketchup or your condiment to your table in, those can all be composted. So there's not really the need to rinse containers before putting them into the compost.
Okay, so and that's only though at Fort White, because at home I'm given to understand that if you have a can of soup and the soup can is recyclable, that you should rinse that off. And a lot of people, I understand, are not doing that. So it means that some things that you think are going to be recycled aren't, because there's just too much garbage that people are throwing in with the recycling in the home bins. But we have some more things to see. How about, can you explain some of the things here?
Yeah.
These were brought by you, right? Okay.
Yeah, of course. So a couple of the things that I have here, I brought some of overlap with Jackie. We have a lot of the same ideas as far as different things to bring. Actually, Jackie brought these, and these ones, this stems from the idea that shopping in a bulk bin is actually a lot better than shopping if you're going to purchase something at the grocery store. Rather look to see if that dry good is available in the bulk bin, and then you can actually just bring your own container, bring your own bag, fill it up, and then purchase your product without having any of the packaging. The key there that's really interesting is still trying to find options that are local, rather than simply just first stop going to the grocery store. The other thing that needs to be taken into consideration if you're looking at bulk shopping, don't drive your car somewhere just to find a plastic-free alternative if you can walk or cycle or bus to a place where you can find something that has minimal packaging. So it's always kind of trying to balance all of these different situations. But here's an example. In my household, these are some of the items that we've purchased in our bulk local local bulk section, and we've been able to just bring our own jars. Depending on if you're cycling or walking, what your bag situation is, it's sometimes easier to have an option like this or like this, but all very good options.
That's good. And this one?
So this one is actually, this is a recent one. So I keep this in my backpack whenever I am going anywhere, and if I have leftovers from a restaurant, or if I'm wanting to just grab a quick bite at a deli that has some type of salad or something that's pre-made, rather than taking the packaging that's there, I can actually just put it in my own container, and because it collapses, then I can just keep it in my backpack at all times. So it's one that's not necessary to reducing waste lifestyle. There's no reason why you can't carry some other type of container with you. This is also a great option for leftovers. But because it collapses, it's just really convenient to keep in the backpack.
That's great. Wonderful. We'll just take a quick break and come right back just after a few minutes, okay? Perfect. Welcome back to Transitions. For those of you who are just joining us, we're talking about the environment and you. And I have really gotten quite an education, and I'm all ready for picnics with cloth tablecloths. We're a society that's moved to a lot of plastics, and maybe it's time for us to get back to where we're helping the environment by reusing a lot of the things that we do. So I would like to bring attention to this bottle. My husband pointed out to me that these bottles are returnable and they're refilled. So I was wondering, where in Winnipeg could you take, say, wine bottles and have them refilled? And I was just told that you can actually do that at the LC.
Yeah, you can take them to some liquor marts. I don't know
Some?
exactly
Oh, okay.
It's not available at all of them, but there
Yeah.
are some that will refill wine bottles. And I find there's also on Kijiji or Facebook, there's some trading groups that people who make their own wine or their own drinks in their homes look for bottles and things all the time. So you can also find other people in the community that would take those off your hands just by
That's-
reaching out.
That's great.
Yeah, people are often trying to collect them for different decorations or for making their wine at home, and then certain LCs have the bottle and cork, I think it's what's called.
Yeah, bottle and cork.
The other things that I've noticed here is with the paper cups, and you're taking paper cups or plastic or styrofoam to your picnic, maybe you should pull out these reusable picnic packages out of your basement and take them home and wash them. Because is this what's happening, is that we've become a sort of disposable society. We figure, it's recyclable, so I'll just throw it in recycling. Well, that takes a lot too, for, let's say, Fort White to collect all of that, put it towards recycling. So if you go and you're having your picnic at Assiniboine Park or wherever, then maybe you should be taking along your things and bringing them back. Fruit. So what do you think? We were talking at the break about fruit. How many times have we stopped at a supermarket to get fruit that's cut up? And we can do that ourselves, right? Take the watermelon, let the child see that the fruit is coming from a big fruit, take a, instead of coming out of a plastic container.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I reuse those plastic containers that have the compartments, but it gets to a point where there's so many of them, you can't keep them all at home, right? So you put some in recycling, but that is still not as good for the environment, is it?
No, so the key is really thinking about the resources that are going into the production of the plastic, and then also resources going into recycling. Unfortunately, the reality is we're at a point where there's far too much plastic. We can't even recycle our way out of this problem. There's not really much of a market for it. A lot of plastic is costly to recycle, and it's so cheap to produce, it just doesn't make sense. So it's really thinking about what you're bringing into your home, and then trying to think about ways in which those items you can actually ensure you're preventing, such as cutting up your own fruit rather than purchasing it in the plastic. And then just if you do have waste, actually collecting that plastic waste. What I actually do in my home, we have a separate bin just for plastics to evaluate and see what kind of plastics are actually coming through. And it's really, really helpful to see exactly what those items are, and then you can actually try and prevent them from coming into your home again, seeing what the key items are. So we've cut down almost to zero on dry food goods. We try and find it from a local producer, and if not, then we go to the bulk section. And then really looking at local agriculture and trying to grow our own food, and then also being part of a community shared agriculture program and shopping at our local farmers market, where we can go, we have a relationship with the farmer, we can go directly to them and then just bring stuff home in our own packaging. And it's not only cutting down on the emissions from food traveling, but it's also cutting down on the packaging because you're taking it directly from the farm. In some cases, we have quite literally gone out and visited the farm to pick up the stuff and bring it home.
I know we've talked a lot about food and packaging, but when you think of clothing as well, I guess my daughter is more into watching, whether or not she has that reusable bag with her when she shops. And now I have become a little bit more vigilant about that. So I just recently bought a pair of boots, and I actually walked out of the store with the boots in hand because I had forgotten my reusable bag. So with clothing now, one of the things that we've been doing in our family is doing clothes swapping, accessory swapping and stuff like that. I noticed too that some kids have done that at a school where they have a swapping day, and I think that more people really should get into that. What do you think? Because, I mean, it's not just food, right? It's all these other things, all the things that we do that affect our environment. I mean, I shop at the, store, new and used. And when you shop at a thrift store, like some people turn their noses up at thrift stores, but you're actually helping the environment. You're helping people, and you're helping the environment.
Absolutely.
So I think that, this is really inspiring to meet the two of you, and I'm very glad that Neil has actually decided to co-produce this episode with me, and I'm hoping that we do some more discussions. But where do you think it's all going to go? Do you think that the legislation may change so that it becomes harder for people to, maybe waste, where there's some, I don't want to say some penalties, but I understand actually from Neil that some really, Scotland's gotten really tough on people with their recycle bins and making sure that these bins before they're picked up are clean and so on, because there are a lot of people who are not cleaning them, and I understand a lot goes to waste. So do you think there's anything coming down here in Manitoba that people have been talking about that where it might get quite strict?
Well, there's a number of communities that have talked about, and some, I think, like Leaf Rapids, for example, have stopped using plastic shopping bags. And so, that's an example of a single-use plastic some people might take it home and reuse it as a garbage bag, but there's an example of a plastic that is eliminatable because you can bring your own grocery bags, and there's other ways with paper boxes or cardboard boxes to carry foods out of grocery stores or clothing stores like you suggested. I noticed that there's in Maine, they're the first state to outlaw styrofoam. So thinking about like different reusable or disposable items, you know, a paper or compostable material that can go into a compost is a better alternative to something like styrofoam or a single-use plastic cup that would just go into the garbage and really isn't recyclable at all. So I think people have to speak up and ask their leaders, political leaders, for what they would like to see in those changes. And I don't know of any immediate things that are coming down the pipe, but
yeah, there's a few things that different groups, advocacy groups, are working on and trying to work with political leaders to ensure that there's actually a change at a higher level so that it's making it easier for people, such as the bag ban. The other thing is, when you're talking about waste, trying to divert it from the landfill if you do end up with food waste, having curbside compost pickup is also a big thing. So just looking at ways that that at that higher level, it's making it easier and more accessible to the average person. And as far as what people can do, a huge thing, not only looking at these actions in your own life, but really talking to your local grocery store, talking to any retailers around you that you frequent, and talking to your municipal leaders to ensure that there are those higher level changes happening, because that's when we're really going to start seeing the change.
And Antoinette, you talked about your daughter being a great motivator for you in terms of encouraging you to bring your reusable bag. And at Fort White, we work with 35,000 school children throughout the year, and many of those kids have participate as part of the Trash Can Jam. And next year, all of our school programs will have to participate in that program as they come to Fort White. So every child will have that opportunity to go through their lunch bag after they've eaten lunch and look at garbage, recycling, and compost. And we're going to encourage the boomerang. So whatever you bring into Fort White, you take out with you. We do our own waste audits on site, so we're looking on a biannual basis, how much waste are we producing in what streams, and how can we further our efforts internally and also in our communication with people to help them learn how to change their behavior. We're all just learning as we go along, and so you have to start somewhere. And you know, I think Green Action Centre does a great job in the community educating people where they are, and people who come to Fort White learn about those environmental impacts that they can make as an individual. So thanks for the opportunity to share that.
Yeah, thank you very much. And we are going beyond Manitoba to the oceans and so on, like the young guy in the video and his concern about the turtles and so on. So all of our viewers out there, we'd like to really thank you for joining us on Transitions today, and all the best and good luck with your efforts to make a difference in our communities.